Hey everyone, Rachel Jensen here with Luna Realty Belize. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us on this channel here and staying caught up on what's going on in the real estate market in Belize and, of course, on Ambergris Key. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to introduce who I am to you. I know in a lot of times in the sessions, we just kind of jump right in. And I think as you're exploring ownership of real estate in a foreign country, it is really important for you to do your due diligence, for you to understand who it is that you're listening to and getting all this great advice from, because it is a very big world out there. There is a lot of information being shared. And of course, it is important to know where it is that it is coming from. So as mentioned, my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm originally from New York. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City and made my way down to Belize for the very first time in 2012. And I'm going to go through the timeline with you in just a minute here, but did want to mention also that I do sit on the board for the Belize National Association of Real Estate and just have been as involved as I can be in the real estate industry here. But here we go, going back to that timeline. So as mentioned, I came down in 2012 for the first time, and that was for a work trip, actually. So I was fresh out of college. I was interning with this real estate development company. The development company had property in Belize, in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador. And I was actually stationed in their Nicaragua offices in Managua, Nicaragua. And I remember my boss was like, all right, you're going to have to go to Ambergris Key in Belize. It's our sister property out there. And you're going to have to coordinate this conference that's based on living and investing overseas. And I was like, yeah, sure. Send me wherever, I'm excited to travel and get out and do something new. And then I'm in the back end, like typing Ambergris Key Belize into Google to see where exactly I'm going. And I pulled up these pictures, and I remember looking at the resort. At this time, at this point, the resort's gone. It's this old thatched roof hotel that they eventually tore down. But I remember looking at the pictures and being like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, right? But I had never heard of the country before. I'd never been here. So next thing I know, I'm on the flight to Ambergris Key, step foot in tropic air, and I'm just in awe about what I see. There are golf carts everywhere, beautiful palm trees. The Caribbean is a stunning blue color, and was just so absolutely blown away. And of course, I was busy working for that week here and didn't really get to spend too much time really integrating too much into the local community, but found that I was coming back more and more and more. At that point, they were starting their Belize operations. I was here for a week or two, every 2 to 4 weeks. And so at that point, as I was spending more time here and really getting to do more things, I just met some of the most amazing people. So then finally in 2016, I decided, you know what, I'm going to buy a place here. This is where I'm going to call home. And that's essentially what I did. And so over the years, I'm not going to go through all this whole timeline with you, but over the years, I've spent a lot of time going through some of these processes that you may just be starting to look at, whether it's going through the work permit process, did that a handful of time, applying for residency, getting a driver's license, starting companies, buying real estate, buying condos. Like there's just a lot here that when you relocate your life, that you are suddenly realizing that you need to do, and you may have no idea what to do or how to do it. And that's why you're on these channels here, learning more about what to do in Belize. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people out here that are talking to you about their experiences, and that's great. You want to get as caught up and familiar with people's experiences as possible, but do note that everyone's experience may be different to some degree. So while it's good that you're getting this information, I know my goal for you is to share, of course, the my experiences with you, but when it comes to the legal matters, the residency, the closing process, all of those sort of things, I'm going to bring in the professionals for you, because I can, of course, tell you what my process looked like to close on real estate, but I can tell you it's probably a little bit different than this person down here who worked with a different closing agent. So I'm going to give you all of that with the professional help. But I just wanted to show you this timeline here because I am always happy to talk to folks about what some of these processes look like, and how you can best prepare for it, especially for a lot of the legal ones, like getting the driver's license, establishing a company. You can find a lot of that sort of information online, especially what's required from the basic level, but sometimes it's not always spelled out what exactly you need to do, and you may have to jump around from place to place to try to get that information. So as best as I can assist you, I am very happy to do so. But what I've realized too is, as you're looking at real estate, and not just overseas or in Belize, but even generally, when you're working with a real estate agent, it is pretty important to get to know the person that you're working with. And especially for those of you who are new to foreign investment outside of your home country, it is really important for you to know and like and trust the person that you're working with. So I just wanted to share a couple of my favorite things to do with you. Maybe you'll find something on here that you also enjoy doing. I always like meeting up with like-minded people, and that really gets me on my first point there, which is getting involved, getting to know other people in the community, finding ways to integrate, and really getting to know those like-minded individuals, right? And I like the business networking part of it. I'm part of the Belize National Association of Real Estate, as I mentioned to you before. I was a founding member of the Rotaract Club here on Ambergris Key, work with ACES Wildlife, and just find ways to keep busy. In addition to that, I like trying new things and going outside of my comfort zone. It's not always easy to do, but afterwards, it is just such an incredibly rewarding thing. In addition to that, I like exploring new places and hiking. That's probably one of my biggest passions. It's a little hard to do on Ambergris Key, which is why I end up on the mainland so often, but it really is one of my favorite pastimes. And then, of course, spending time with the fur baby. So I do apologize in advance if you ever hear me barking in the sessions here. It's probably the pit bull who starts it, and the poodle. She's blind, as you can tell by the pictures there. You can see the little cataracts in her eyes. It's always the poodle who follows, but those are my fur babies over there. It's definitely a unique combination, the pit bull and the poodle, but I gotta tell you, it somehow works. And I wanted to consolidate these top 5 lessons that I've learned with you from being in this region for over a decade, because there are some things that I wish somebody told me before I really jumped into this. And luckily I didn't have to rush into it. It was just a slow ease in, as you can see from the timeline earlier. It was just a few months ago that I got my license here, my driver's license here. So it doesn't need to be everything at once. And I think when you do take a step back and just sort of break down what you need to do step by step, it'll make it a whole lot easier. It can be so overwhelming when you come to a new country to find where you're going to live, to get your golf cart, to ship down all of your items, X, Y, Z. And of course, you're listening to these videos to get the sort of advice and information that you need to prepare you for that, but you just really don't have to rush. Second point there is really spend time getting to know the locals and the longtime expats. And I say that because when you're moving to a new location and a whole new country, there's a very different culture. There's just different ways of doing things. The best thing that you can do is learn how you can best adapt. And I have to tell you, some of the best friendships I've ever had in my life have been made here on Ambergris Key. And these people really have been some of the big reasons why I've stayed on Ambergris Key and maybe haven't tried anywhere else in the country or left the country. But it really helps once you get past that superficial level to get to know somebody and build those relationships and connections. And then, this is really more for me than anything, but staying busy. And I really enjoy waking up with a purpose. Where we are on Ambergris, this is a tourist town, right? And it is so easy to get pulled into the tourist lifestyle. And it's like, Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. and like, let's go to the secret beach and go grab some beers on the way. And like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like I'm not on vacation anymore. And so when you live here and spend time here, you really want to find ways to wake up with that purpose, whatever that means to you. And there are great ways for you to get involved, whether you like volunteering or perhaps there are certain clubs that you want to be a part of. And if you don't see it here, like perhaps you want to be part of a book club and you can't find a book club, we'll put one together, post up online to see who else wants to join you, and voila, there you go. Take that initiative, which is great too. Now, fourth thing is that things will certainly get challenging and frustrating. I know I've experienced this. I've heard a lot of expats vent about it as well. But really, a lot of it comes back down to your mindset. And I'm not trying to be one of those rah, you can do it people. Like, there are going to be times you're like, what in the world did I do? I just want to go home. And you're like, worst case scenario, you don't have to stay here, right? You don't have to stay here. Of course, you want to stay here. You want to make it work. But this is where those relationships and the connections and the friendships really come in. And then you're like, I can do it. I can do it. I can stick it out. I am going to go back to the trade license department one more time to find my trade license, even though they told me it's going to be ready 4 weeks ago. Whatever the process may be or whatever you're going through, you will get through it. And then number 5, this is something, for me personally that I've learned is I will never be a local. I will never be a Belizean. There are going to be times and many times that I'm still looked at as a foreigner. I have the residency here. I've gone through a lot of things that the locals go through and in many processes and whatnot. but I'm never going to be from Belize. And I think that that's a really humbling statement that people who come in as foreigners have to remember and realize. You may get charged more for being a foreigner at a certain restaurant or on the water taxi or whatever it may be, but keep yourself humble and realize that this is not your home country. You are a visitor here, you're a foreigner here, and the best thing to do is really just try to adapt and be calm in all of this. And where I'm going with all this is really what my goal is for you with this channel. Of course, I'm going to be updating you on the real estate market and telling you what's going on with the developments and construction progress and new 2 bedrooms that are coming on the market. But I also realize I'm not a professional in everything with regards to real estate. When it comes to the closing process, it's best that we have a closing attorney come on and tell you about that. When it comes to using your self-directed IRA, for example, if you're an American, having those experts come on and talk about it. And if there's ever anything that you want to hear about that maybe we haven't discussed, please reach out to me. I love learning. And if I don't know about a topic, I will certainly bring somebody on who is the expert to make sure that you are kept up. And then, of course, not sugarcoating anything. It's always good to know the good, the bad, the ugly. In real estate and everything in life, there's pros and cons. And I do want to make sure those are shared with you. While life here in Belize and on the island is really wonderful and beautiful. I mean, every day I still wake up so grateful. And that when I look at it at the window, I see the Caribbean blue water, and it's still just as beautiful as the first time I ever stepped on this island. But, there are also things here that are challenging, and I do want to make sure that those are conveyed to you in a very honest way. So at some point, I look forward to welcoming you here to Belize. But in the meantime, if you're just starting to figure out your way around, or you're planning your first trip down, or maybe you're coming down for your 15th time, feel free to reach out. Love to meet up with you in person and catch up from there. Thank you, everybody, for listening and making it to the end of this channel. I really hope we do get the chance to connect in person or email or Zoom or whatever it may be, and have a really, really great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.